welcome to the Snide Show. I'm your host, AC Snide. With me usually would be a co-host. Tonight I'm solo in space, but fresh out of the Phantom Zone, you guys. Someone bearing the likes of one Corey Snide, but he can't be with us today. Unfortunately, he's come down with a condition where he grew horns and is now undergoing a procedure where they are shaven down. He hid them for as long as he could under his beanie, but it was becoming a real problem, so let's wish him well. And if you're the praying type, just keep him in mind. But the show must go on, and he'll be with us in Produce Cereal Spirits. Today we've got a big jug of topical punch for your perspective asses. So let's start out with some of the science. Science. Something a little closer to home before we blast off into space. This is the amateur treasure hunter finds 2.5 million gold headpieces from Henry VIII's lost crown. This is brought to us by Paula Forlich, January 30th, 2021. So let's see what we've got here diving on in. So Kevin Duckett was hunting for treasure. Let's see, with his metal detector, doop, 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 doop. He was searching out in a field near Market Harborough, North Hampshire, England. Let's see, he unearthed a solid gold figurine that experts believe is part of a long-lost part of oh, wow. It's a long-lost part of the crown itself, which is pretty sick, all things considered. At first, I wondered if I was a crumbled foil dish from a 1970s Mr. Kipling product, or even a gold milk bottle top. Duckett told The Sun. The Sun, huh? I'm assuming The Sun is actually kind of like the New York Post, where this is coming from. Well, let's see what else he had to say. I got a very loud, positive signal from my metal detector and started to dig down before spotting something. There's 3 dots. We all know what that means. It was lodged in the side of a hole, just a few inches down. Hmm. Duckett had found a 2.5-inch solid gold in enamel figure that has been lost for over 400 years. That seems to be a very long time. Let's see. Oliver Cromwell of the Cromwell witch. No, I'm thinking of something else. Oh, stupid. In 1649, Oliver Cromwell abolished the monarchy, beheaded King Charles. Oh my. The first, by the way, and ordered the crown once worn by Henry VIII to be melted down, minted, and sold as coins. Orders that were followed. Let's see. What else have we got going on here then? So according to The Sun, which again, I'm assuming is like the New York Post, the crown's 344 precious stones were sold separately, while other parts of the crown were passed on intact, never to be seen again. Well, if they were never seen again, how do they know they were intact? Just curious about that. So the crown was worn by Henry VIII at his coronation and during his wedding to Anne of Cleves. This was in 1540. The headpiece was later used at the coronations of his children, hmm, Edward, Mary, and Elizabeth, and then of James the First and Charles the First. Historians think the figurine could have detached as Charles' escapade. Oh. Hmm. Or, alternatively, he buried it to keep it from Cromwell. I'll bet you anything that's where it went. So let's see here. So as we're scrolling on down through this article here, we've got Henry VIII crown jewel. We see an image of it right there. Yeah, yeah. It almost looks like the face of Tony the Tiger and Buddha. So upon finding the piece, Duckett claims he knew what he had. So okay. So we're gonna go back a little bit into the story where it said they were intact. And of course I was like, uh, you sure? But this guy right here says, "Oh, I know what I got. I know what this is." So, I mean, I'm not an archaeologist. I don't do, I'm not a historian necessarily. I'm also not a professor but I know that this is got to be a crown jewel. But let's see what he had to actually say about the what he knew he had. Hmm. I'd seen the replica on YouTube, and the tiny figures on the fleurs de lis, but I couldn't be sure. Now wait a minute. Be sure. This is what Duckett told the paper. So let me ask this: who did Duckett claim to that he knew what he had? This article is riddled with things that are just astounding. Let's see what else we have. I'd headed to the palace to find out. I'll never forget the sheer excitement as I got closer to the grand hall where the replica sat in all its glory. I'd entered the room and my figurine, identical twin, was staring right at me. I knew, I knew then and there what I had, but did you not know before what you didn't have? But is this what he's talking about? And much like time travel, he had like a time traveler's premonition as to what he knew he had. That's it. Okay, let's keep going. Lucy Worsley, chief curator at Historic Royal Palaces, told The Sun the great news that after centuries of subterranean slumber, so it was sleeping, of course, this little golden figure had been revealed once more. It is tantalizing. You can't say tantalizing without adding a little bit of emphasis to the tantalizing of it to imagine its true history. The piece is now being held at the British Museum, where it rightfully should be, yes? Here. So let's see what we've got here. And we have an image of photos that cannot be explained. I believe we have reached the climax in the end of this article. And I started going into the articles we no longer need to worry about because most of them are fiction anyway. So, how's that for you guys? Lunch, but maybe not necessarily a sciencey, space-related science, but still, archaeology is a science. But one more thing before we depart. ever so impressive journey through the stars. Alien abduction? Science calls it sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis, I'm quite familiar with. I've heard of it. Heard of it. Had it a couple of times myself. But so in this article by Nicholas D. Christoph, July 6, 1999, he says about once a week, Jean Christophe Filion wakes up and senses the pressure of a threatening, evil being beside his bed. Hmm. Sounds like chef people, but let's wait. Terror ripples through him. Ripples, rippers, ripples, both. Could be both. And he tries to move or call out, but he is paralyzed, unable to rise an arm or make a sound. His ears ring, and weight presses down on his chest, and he has to struggle for breath. So this seems pretty bad. This seems pretty rough, yeah? So looks like we have a little bit of a quote here. I feel an intense pressure in my head as if it's going to explode, said Mr. Trillion, a Canadian physicist doing research in Japan. Hmm, very interesting, actually. This guy's all over the place. Sometimes he finds himself transported upward and looking down on his body, hmm, or else sent hurtling through a long tunnel. So this is a lot like he's describing an astral projection occurrence, which I do know some studies have related sleep paralysis with. So, that's something to think about if you want to look into it, or if you want us to look into it, give us a suggestion. We could do that. We could definitely do it. It's definitely worth, I would say, at least a conversation. To continue, though, these episodes are terrifying, even for a scientist like him, who does not believe that evil spirits go around haunting people. Well, there are non-believers, if you will. But let's continue. Called sleep paralysis, this disorder, it is a disorder, by the way. It is a diagnosable disorder, too. The result of a disconnect between brain and body as a person is on the fringe of sleep. So, most people, I'm sure, well, I'll say probably about a third of people know when you go to sleep, your body does paralyze itself to regenerate, rejuvenate, and repair. So when you reach this fringe that they're talking about between being asleep and awake, you meet yourself somewhere in the middle and you just kind of dangle there in a circular motion. So your body is asleep, but your mind is awake, and you can't move the body. So let's see here. There's a slash slash. Then it says, is turning out to be increasingly common. Affecting nearly half of all people at least once. Now, I have had this 2 or 3 times, but I was much younger when this happened. And I would say it's probably more so common in children, young adults, that than older adults, but that's just my experience and what I've seen with it. And I mean, I would think if you start developing something like that, it probably will most likely follow you a little bit, almost like a demon. I shouldn't have said that. Moreover, a growing number of scholars believe that sleep paralysis may help explain many ancient reports of attacks by witches and modern claims of abduction by space aliens. They're saying all of Nome, Alaska had the same occurrence and saw the same thing. Anyway, before we get into that, that's a whole nother can of worms to open up. We have ourselves another quote. I think it can explain claims of witchcraft and alien abductions. I believe it's echoing in here. Might need to turn down the gain a little bit. So, this was the quote of a psychologist at Fukushima University in Japan and a leading expert on sleep paralysis. Research in Japan has had a head start because sleep paralysis is well known to most Japanese, which I find that interesting. I didn't know that. Who called it Kanashibari? Kanashibari. I'm sure one of those pronunciations is correct, and I apologize for both. While it is little known and less studied in the West. Interesting. So here we have ourselves one more quote. We have a framework for it, but in North America, there's no concept for people to understand what has happened to them. Huh. Well, you sleep but awake and you paralyzed so you couldn't move, but you can think and see. Think that covers it. Professor Fukuda said, so if Americans have the experience, and if they have heard of alien abductions, then they may think, ah, it's an alien abduction. Okay, all right. I will give you that is a possibility. Alternative. Would it induce the same general vision that almost every single individual who is abducted sees, feels, and hears? I'm going to pause for just one more moment to let you answer. Sleep paralysis was once thought to be very rare, but recent studies in Canada, Japan, China, and the United States have suggested. Now, wait a minute. And the United States. So but the previous paragraph tells us contrary to this paragraph. So it creates a double negative, which means there must be a positive going forward. So let's find it. We can do may strike at least 40% or 50% of all people at least once. Okay, now we're getting repetitive too. I'm getting right. I might be losing it. A study in Newfoundland. It's Newfoundland. Thank you. Canada found that more than 60% had experienced. Well, that's an awful big number. That's more than half. There, as in Japan, people have a name for the condition other than sleep paralysis. All right, I'm interested. And some scholars believe that people are therefore more likely to identify it when it happens to them. But, okay. Had to read forward a little bit. In Newfoundland, thank you. It is called Old Hag. Wow, that is rude. They can't do that. They're not Irish. They can't do that. Okay. Because it is associated with visions of an old witch sitting on the chest of a paralyzed sleeper, sometimes throttling the neck with her hands. No, I can't. I can't even. I shouldn't. And I, no. Mm-mm. This is family programming. Oh, it's not. That's right. Okay, then you use your imagination to that statement. Sleep paralysis seems to have been described since ancient times, and an episode appeared in Moby Dick. Really? And perhaps also in the 18th century, Henry Fuseli's painting, The Nightmare, which shows a goblin sitting on the stomach of a sleeping woman. Oh, God. So, hmm. What is striking is that although the symptoms of sleep paralysis are generally very similar, the images in the hallucinations and the interpretations of them seem to vary. So, my question now is if here it's saying the hallucinations and visions, images, what have you, seem to vary, but the reports of alien abductions don't vary and don't typically involve witches. I'm not so sure they can be associated. I'm not an expert. I don't have wild hair and I don't talk about aliens all the time. But what I do know is this, and what I have read about alien abduction and seen, this is not one and the same. I could be wrong, but far be it from me to tell them what's what. Oh, this is an interesting one, though. Tomoka Takuchi Takeuchi? I'm going to go with that one. A Japanese expert on sleep paralysis who is conducting research at Brock University in Ontario, Canada. Canada. Japanese Canada. There's something going on there. I feel like they might have a relationship. Said that a connection might eventually be demonstrated scientifically, but added, I hesitate to speculate too much. I believe I may have to be finished with this article because I do believe I don't like it very much now. It seems as if it's making a mockery. It could just be me here, but it's making a mockery out of both sleep paralysis and abduction. Could be wrong. Oh, mm, mm, mm. Oh, no, 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 no. So let's go ahead and move on into some UFO stuff and UFO news today. A recent sighting not far from where we are actually. Hmm. Hmm. Video of glowing object behind Outer Banks Lighthouse sparks UFO debate. What was it? This article, let's see, brings us to North Carolina. This is Mark Price, January 13th, 2021. So not long ago either. So what is that an image of? There's definitely a UFO there. There's definitely something jettisoning out the back. Looks like there's a lot of debate on what it could actually be. A lively debate from what this article starts out with. It has erupted on social media over a video that appears to show an unidentified flying object. Yes, a UFO. Exactly. It looks like A meteor? No, not quite. But photographer Wes Snyder, interesting, like the pretzels, says that only because he sped the video up, hmm hmm the object was visible for just under 3 minutes total. So I doubt it was a meteor. See, I told you. Or shooting star, as those typically only last a few seconds. Yes, exactly. That's my point. Plus, if we take a look here at this image, the way that pattern is, it has a double pattern. So there's a pattern coming, obviously a gap between the object itself, the first part of the pattern, then there's a second gap in almost like an arrow shape with a second jettison, and then a third section, which is much lighter, which means what is happening here is there is more than one trajectory, which means there is more than one blast. Typically, rocks rolling through space don't do that. They don't have flight patterns like rockets do. The object also appears to have corners in some of the time-lapse photos. Ah, see? If I had only been patient and then read a little bit further, they would have said the same thing I just said, except they didn't get all cocky about it like I did. So let's see what Snyder has to say here. So Snyder, who is well known in the Carolinas, so both North and South, for coastal photography, shared the video on Facebook and YouTube in hopes of getting sensible explanations. Sensible is a non-believer explanation, which is okay. You have to have those to have believers anyway. The result has been 300 plus comments, 600 shares, and 1,500 reactions. Hmm. Hmm. Well done. The video was recorded around 10:30 p.m. on the 7th of January. This is, of course, according to Snide. He also goes on to be quoted saying, I spent a night at the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse shooting time-lapse photos in order to create an upcoming video. While I was looking through my footage, I realized there was something in the video that I could not explain. This is what he wrote on Facebook. It's much larger than your typical plane appears. Yes, I would agree with you there. And it's moving way faster than clouds. Well, it don't look like no cloud I ever seen, Wilbur. Go ahead here, read this. North Carolina's coast is well known for reported UFO sightings. Yes. Large segments of the Outer Banks are undeveloped, and the lack of light pollution allows for extended viewing of the night sky, which is awesome. There aren't too many places where that's a possibility. However, I do have that luxury where I live, which is not North Carolina, but I'm not going to tell you where that is. Mix for strange sightings. Well, as we all recall, if I take a moment here and flashback to the first of our outer space segments. So I explained seeing the Elon Musk satellites for SpaceX, and that's how we got that whole story going. And we referenced it through two other segments. That was not a comet either. And I knew that not because of the trajectory, because you obviously couldn't see it, but because it wasn't a flight pattern. It was just floating around. However, I almost guarantee somebody else out there like, yeah, that's a plane. No, it wasn't a plane, friend. I digress. Experts believe some of the suspected UFOs reported off the coast were actually military exercises. And that's always another great cop out, one you always see somewhere. Was actually a military exercise that you were unaware of because we don't have to let you know. Actually, technically, you do. Which often employs a mix of aircraft and flares. Still, others may have been the elaborate lights on fishing trawlers. Fishing trawlers, you say? Hmm, but going through the rest of this article, it looks like the the individual Schneider who actually caught the image, he's saying he's happy to see all the responses and validate that he's not crazy and that he got something unique, but it doesn't seem that he's actually sold that it could be anything unexplained. He believes it could be explainable, but he does love the unexplained, which is pretty cool. It sounds like what I'm seeing out of this article is that he really would like it to be something unexplained, but it could go so many different directions. He just doesn't know. It's almost like one of those things that has a cliffhanger ending, but you know what? You're just satisfied. You're okay. It was cool, short little 5 6 minute read. But you know what? I'm ready to chip on here and go on to the next topic. And that's okay too. Sometimes you just need those to fill in a little bit of space. So let's see what we got here. We got a strange tie in with some of the bigger news of the past year. A subject we've tried to avoid, but now has some serious implications in the UFO world. Oh boy, I hope you're ready. So excited. All right, so this article, I forgot to turn the ad off before I opened it up. Looks like. All right, here we go. It's full of ads. So this should be interesting. Let's see how I can dance around this. All right, so U.S. intelligence agencies, UIA, have 180 days to share what they know about UFOs thanks to the COVID-19 relief and spending bill. Uh oh. Oh boy. See, you know what? When everybody wanted to storm Area 51, they should have just let them. Just let them. And everybody would have been like, you know what? We're good. We don't need to know anything else. But no, 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 no. So let's see. This is by Armit Kaur, CNN. This is from January 10th of 2021. Let's scroll on past this ad here. Please don't, for the love of... Oh boy. Oh my. Here's a name I didn't think we were going to actually say on here. Here we go. When President Donald Trump signed the 2.3 trillion coronavirus relief and government funding bill into law in December, so began the 180-day countdown for U.S. intelligence agencies to tell Congress what they know about UFOs. Oh no. Really? No, not really. Oh, okay. All right. It even says right here at the. Oh God. Oh no, it says no, really? Oh boy. Here we go. Huh, 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 huh. My brain just isn't able to fathom it, so it just stuck the word not in there too. It's like, oh boy. But somehow that made it easier to take that, oh my gosh, you guys are screwed. The Director of National Intelligence and the Secretary of Defense, there we go, that's the word, have a little less than 6 months now to provide the Congressional Intelligence and Armed Service Committees with an unclassified report about unidentified aerial phenomenon. What? UAP? Oh, they're gonna find some way to ha ha ha. See? See the wording there? I don't have to tell you about anything other than phenomena. Got us again, alien tech. It's a stipulation that was tucked into the committee's comment section of the Intelligence Authorization Act. Ah, some tricky bitch. For the physical year of 2021. So now you gotta watch out though, because 2021's been like 2020 part two. So let's not let's not poke the bear too hard here. Let's ease into it. I mean, no, don't expect something, but don't expect it all at once. Don't get greedy. Now, this was contained in the massive spending bill, which is interesting. That would be the place to put it, in the spending bill. Okay, okay, sure. I'm just gonna sign this because I don't want to have this headache. Money, numbers. Oh, there's also a thing in there about UFOs. Huh? So, that report must contain detailed analysis of UFO data. So, now which one is it? Is it UFO, flying objects, or aerial phenomenon? Hmm. Because, you can use a lot of wording to trick people. And without the proper wording, there's always a loophole. So let's see what we've got. An intelligence collections by the Office of Naval Intelligence, the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, and the FBI. See, now this is what I'm talking about. This right here. So you go from UFO straight into UAPTF. This is very strange. Now, here's the other thing. Just because the government, the FBI, which you would think the FBI has already got a little bit of a tail into this, but Congress, mm, do they really need to know? I mean, isn't it a need to know basis? Yeah. I mean, we all see Men in Black. We know what they say. They say once once people know there's mass hysteria, and if there's mass hysteria, well, we've all seen post-apocalyptic stuff. Yeah, they ain't exactly going X Files. There's not going to be some basement with a poster on the wall that says "I want to believe." No, 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 no. There's "I want to destroy." We all know what's happening, what's coming. Yeah. Anywho, let's move on just a little bit further. Let's see. So it says described in detail an interagency process for ensuring timely data collection and centralized analysis of all unidentified, I keep saying flied, I know I do, unidentified aerial phenomenon reporting for the federal government. So, aerial phenomena, could that also be like there's fairies? Are they going to tell me that they see fairies too? See, because it's like, well, there's no such thing as fairies. Yeah, orbs. I mean, that's no, that's paranormal. Yeah, that's so wishy-washy. I mean, you can't. The line's just it's awful thin here. Okay, but let's go a little bit further because I see the word finally. So finally, the report should identify any potential national security threats posed by UFOs and assess whether any of the nation's adversaries could be behind such activity. The committee said. They said so. So, hmm. So now, with that type of wording, you could easily be like, "Oh, Russians are doing it because we said so." But how do we know it's not like one of those Doctor Who scenarios where they've got like Torchwood and they're flagshipping all this stuff, and you don't really want to find out about it. You don't want to know that's going on. You don't find out, world's about to be bloated up. You don't want to know that there's about to be a bunch of little marshmallow creatures that are going to start popping out your body. I mean, you sit there and think about it. Do you really do you want these people to know that's going to happen? Because what are they going to do? They're going to just shoot at it. Oh, that is a threat. I must destroy it. And then next thing you know, it's going to be T2 over here. Just saying. So it looks like a lot of this is going to be a whole lot more of like history as opposed to moving forward, which is, essentially what history's supposed to do for us. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop us here. I'm going to stop us here. If you want me to go further into it and you want to see more about the history, you let me know. I'll set aside some time just for you. Speaking of good old Doctor Who, by the way, this is going to be our last segment of this evening, and it's going to be a palate cleanser with some fandom news for us. So I don't know whose favorite story arc is what, how far you've seen, if you've seen it at all. Chances are, if you're watching us, you've seen it all. But we're all familiar with the storyline of Rose Tyler. Yes, yes. One of the most emotional, intense, and heart pounding departures on the series. We have Billie Piper and why she wouldn't go back to Rose Tyler. Billie Piper wouldn't go back to Doctor Who as companion Rose Tyler. Let's get into this article because this one is this was my favorite story arc, and this one was insane. And of course, it followed from Eccleston through Tennant. But this is Sabrina Barr from January 30th, 2021. So let's see. We all know, of course, she started, as the article starts with, in her early 20s with Christopher Eccleston, who was let's see, I want to say he was the ninth Doctor. And he did quite a job to only be in it for one series and get this storyline started off. So the actor made her last on-screen appearance as the character in 2013. This was the special which starred Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor. See, I was right on the money. David Tennant makes a guest appearance as, of course, he was the 10th Doctor, and late John Hurt appeared as War Doctor, which is very interesting. I find that to be well. I find this to be very interesting. Of course, if you have not seen this yet, I am so sorry. And as River Song always says, spoilers. Now, while Billie acknowledged that playing Rose was a great role during a recent interview, she said that she wouldn't go back as she wouldn't want to spend long periods of time away from her three children, which is understandable. So, I mean, I myself have three children, of course. But I don't know if I could say that I wouldn't do even a small cameo for it. But let's go on into the article and see if it gets a little bit deeper. In response to the suggestion made by The Guardian, which is one we frequent quite often, she couldn't be in the new star of the show when the 13th Doctor, Jodie Whittaker, leaves. Hmm. She replied, I wouldn't go back. It's a great role, but you're away from your kids for so long. My experience was that you're in Wales for 9 months solid, and as a job, it dominates your life, which I could see that because they basically pump out a whole series like 6 months prior to it airing, which I bravo to those who can hold on like Tenet running for a smidge over the rest of them, but also with all those specials that he did, and those were like hour-long specials, almost immediately after taking place from 2008 to 2010 when Matt Smith, picked up the mantle. Let's see here. Billy added that as the sci-fi series is so massive with families, she could barely escape the fame. Although she doesn't fancy playing Rose, I love the way that Brits say things like that, and I wish we talked more like that. Ah, it's- I would fancy playing the Rose Tighter. But on the TV show again, Billy has tried to encourage her children to watch it, with little success. Oh no. Oh no 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 no. Let's see what she has to say here. Saying that her children have absolutely no interest, which astounds me. It astounds me. My 4-year-old loves Doctor Who, and it's funny because now my 2-year-old has started saying Doctor Who, Doctor Who. I mean, she's not as into it. She likes the flash and colors and stuff. And then you get into the dialogue, and she's like, "Bye." Let's. In her early singing career, the I Hate Susie star said, "They certainly don't give a explicit delete." Ooh, I forget. This article's for everyone. But I'm not for everyone, so it doesn't give a shit about my music career. They don't like seeing me in Doctor Who, and I have pushed that on them a number of times. Hmm. Hmm. Billy revealed that her eldest son, who is 12 years old, 12 years old, that's really when you can dig in deep and really love the Who. Not the band, the show, but you can love the Who too. They're great. Would get very upset that I was being chased or scared or attacked. So I thought, okay, this is a weird mental leap for you. I can see that. I can kind of get that though. Kids, they're not gonna really, I mean, it's like looking at a clone, or you're not gonna see them as being the character they're playing when it is directly your parent. It's just hard. I can get that. I can dig it. But at the same time, it's not, I don't feel like actors and actresses who are in horror gore flicks, you know. But I'm not chastising her kids for not wanting to see it. I do also get it. But let's see here. In 2006, the actor expressed her interest in playing a female doctor. Now, this I did not know, stating, in quote, in the next few years, I'd love to play a female version of the doctor. I know exactly how I would play her. She would be crafty in a clever kind of way. Of course, Jodie Whittaker eventually became the first woman to play the role, making her first appearance in 2007 or 2017, excuse me, Christmas special. But that's one thing I love about Doctor Who. If you really think about it, they always start off the year and always end the year on a Christmas special, which is a bravo in my opinion, um, because you can captivate audiences over the span of time, and the fact that you're able to pull so many Christmas stories together, and like even when we think about the Matt Smith Christmas special, it was not really like several of the Tennant and of course the Eccleston was based on Earth during Christmas, so it had a big Christmas influence. But then with you've got this Matt Smith one, it's got a Christmas Carol influence, but that's about it. There's a Christmas tree, and I think maybe a scene with some snow. But they still give it that Christmassy feeling without it being Christmassy, Christmas. Christmas. I mean, that's just me. But no, at the same time, when we think about character arcs and who played what, who did what the character did, when it comes to Doctor Who, you never have the same doctor and very rarely have any of the doctors make a reappearance. So, I mean, while yeah, you've got the specials, but that's again pretty rare. I mean, she went to an alternate universe. Again, spoilers. She went to an alternate universe. She got to stay there with the copy of David Tennant. I mean, she really got all she needed out of that. I mean, yes, he's not flying around in a giant spaceship, but he's got all the same memories. He's got all the emotions. He's still the Doctor. But no, again, that's my take on it. And I mean, everybody can have a different opinion on it. You're most definitely welcome to that. And share your opinions because we are very interested in those opinions. So I think it was our last article for today. So that means it's about time for us to start getting things all wound down. So this has been the Solo Snide Show for this week. And I hope the solo nature of this pod or VOD or whatever was just as entertaining as one with a greater forecast of banter and so on and so forth. I tried to be, as multiple as I could be with being bouncy off myself. But if it worked, cool. If it didn't, I don't care. So don't forget to check out our plugs. We're gonna have some things popping up all over the place and here and there and everywhere. We do have some great things coming up soon. We're working on a couple of things right now, of course, the audio nature with our second episode of the Odd Job anthology, which will be coming out, should potentially be next, I think it's the 12th. So whatever that is from today, unless it's past today and has already come out, and I've been with the doctor again. Everyone, stay tuned. Stay snide.